The firefighter who ran into hell to save a child. The firefighter stood in front of the burning building while everyone else was running away from it. Smoke covered the night sky. People screamed from the streets below, and somewhere inside the flames, a child was crying for help. For one terrifying second, Daniel Carter froze, not because he lacked courage, but because he was afraid this time he might not come back home. Welcome to Learn English Through Stories, the easiest and most enjoyable way to improve your English naturally. Earlier that same morning, his 7-year-old daughter had wrapped her arms around him before school and asked a simple question. "Dad, firefighters get scared too, right?" Daniel smiled and kissed her forehead. "Every time." She looked confused. "Then why do you still go inside the fire?"
Daniel paused before answering. "Because sometimes people inside are even more scared than we are." At the time, it sounded like just another conversation between a father and his daughter. But 12 hours later, standing in front of a collapsing apartment building surrounded by flames, those words returned to him like an echo. Because fear was real, the heat was real, and death felt closer than ever before.
Daniel had been a firefighter for almost 15 years. People in the city called him a hero, but nobody saw the hidden side of his life, the exhaustion, the sleepless nights, the memories he could never erase. Every siren reminded him of moments that still haunted him. A mother crying beside a destroyed house, a teenager he could not save during a highway accident, a firefighter friend who never made it out of a warehouse fire 3 years earlier. Those memories followed him everywhere, even at home. Sometimes Daniel sat awake at night while his family slept peacefully beside him. He would stare at the ceiling and replay old rescue scenes inside his head. What if I had arrived faster? What if I had chosen another door? What if I failed someone? Most people believed firefighters were fearless, but the truth was different. Real firefighters learn how to move while carrying fear, and some days, that fear becomes heavy. Very heavy. Daniel's wife, Emily, noticed the changes long before anyone else. "You barely sleep anymore," she told him one evening while washing dishes. "I'm fine," Daniel replied automatically. But he was not fine. His body was exhausted. His hands sometimes shook after difficult rescues. And deep inside, something painful was growing. Self-doubt. He started wondering whether he could continue doing the job much longer. Not because he stopped caring, because he cared too much. Every emergency became personal. Every life mattered to him. And carrying that responsibility day after day slowly burned him from the inside. One rainy afternoon at the fire station, Daniel sat quietly drinking cold coffee while the younger firefighters joked nearby. His best friend and teammate, Marcus, walked over and sat beside him. "You okay?" Daniel nodded. "Just tired." Marcus smiled slightly. "Tired enough to retire?" Daniel laughed quietly. "Some days." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "You know what I think?" "What?" "I think good firefighters are the ones who still feel afraid." Daniel looked at him. Marcus continued softly. "The dangerous ones are the people who stop caring." Before Daniel could answer, the emergency alarm suddenly exploded through the station. A dispatcher's voice echoed loudly. "Massive apartment fire downtown. multiple civilians trapped inside. Every firefighter jumped to their feet instantly. The room transformed from calm silence into controlled chaos. Boots slammed against the floor. Equipment snapped into place. Engines roared awake. And within seconds, Daniel's team raced into the stormy night. As the fire trucks sped through the city streets, red lights flashed across rain-covered buildings. Daniel stared quietly through the window.
Something felt wrong, very wrong. When they arrived, the scene looked like a nightmare. An entire apartment building was burning. Flames exploded through shattered windows. Black smoke swallowed the sky. People screamed from below while firefighters rushed in every direction. Police struggled to control the crowd. A woman grabbed Daniel's arm the moment he stepped out of the truck. "My son!" she screamed desperately. "He's still inside!" Daniel looked up toward the burning building.
Third floor. Fire spreading fast. Windows collapsing. The structure was becoming unstable. A police officer rushed over. "We already lost 2 stairways," he shouted. "The building could collapse any minute." Daniel's heart pounded heavily inside his chest. Fear whispered inside him immediately. Too dangerous. Too late. But then he heard it. A child crying. Somewhere above the flames.
And without hesitation, Daniel grabbed his oxygen mask and ran toward the building. Marcus caught his arm briefly. "Danny, be careful." Daniel nodded once, then disappeared into the smoke. Inside the building, everything felt alive. Heat slammed against his body like a wall. Smoke burned his eyes, even through the mask. The sound of cracking wood echoed everywhere. Daniel climbed through collapsing hallways while flames crawled across the ceiling above him. "Fire department," he shouted. "Call out if you can hear me." For a moment, only fire answered him.
Then suddenly, a weak voice. "Help!" Daniel turned quickly. The sound came from behind a blocked apartment door. He forced the door open with his shoulder and entered the burning room. A small boy sat trapped beside a collapsed bookshelf, coughing violently. Daniel rushed toward him immediately. "It's okay," he said calmly. "I've got you." The boy looked terrified. "I can't find my mom." Daniel's chest tightened painfully, but the ceiling above them cracked loudly. There was no time. Daniel lifted the child into his arms and moved back toward the hallway. Then the building shook. Hard. A violent explosion echoed below them. The floor tilted suddenly. Daniel slammed into the wall while protecting the child against his chest. "Marcus," he shouted into the radio. Static answered. The fire was spreading too fast. As Daniel stumbled through smoke-filled hallways, memories flooded his mind unexpectedly. Emily smiling at the kitchen table. His daughter laughing while drawing pictures of fire trucks. The promise he made every morning before leaving home. "I'll come back safely." But for the first time in years, Daniel was no longer sure he could keep that promise. Another explosion shook the building. Part of the ceiling collapsed behind him. The child in his arms began crying harder. Daniel looked down at him, and suddenly he remembered his daughter's question. Firefighters get scared too, right? Yes. Terrified. But courage was never about feeling no fear. Courage meant moving forward while fear screamed inside your chest. Daniel forced himself forward, step by step. One hallway remained between him and the exit. Then he heard another voice, a firefighter, calling for help. "Marcus." Daniel froze instantly.
Somewhere deeper inside the building, his teammate was trapped. For one impossible moment, Daniel faced a choice that would haunt anyone. Take the child outside immediately, or go back into the fire for Marcus. The building groaned violently around him. Every second mattered. The safest choice was obvious, but friendship is powerful, and firefighters never leave their people behind. Daniel carried the child towards a nearby rescue team, breaking through a window. "Take him!" Daniel shouted. The firefighters grabbed the boy safely. "Daniel, wait!" one of them yelled. "The building's collapsing!" But Daniel was already turning back towards the flames, back towards danger, back towards fear. Because someone inside still needed him. The deeper he moved into the building, the hotter the air became. Smoke swallowed almost everything around him. His oxygen alarm began warning him. Low air, low time, low chances of survival. Finally, through the smoke, Daniel spotted Marcus trapped beneath fallen debris. Blood covered part of his face. "Danny," Marcus coughed weakly. Daniel dropped beside him immediately and tried lifting the concrete beam trapping his leg. It barely moved. The ceiling above them cracked loudly again. Marcus grabbed Daniel's arm. "Leave me." "No, you don't have enough time." Daniel ignored him and pushed harder against the debris. His muscles screamed with pain. Heat surrounded them from every direction now. Marcus looked directly into his eyes. "Listen to me," he said weakly. "You have a family waiting for you." Daniel's hands trembled. "So do you." For one terrifying moment, Daniel felt completely powerless, and that feeling broke something inside him. Not because he feared death, because he feared failing someone he loved. Then suddenly, voices echoed nearby. Additional rescue teams had entered the building. Together, they lifted the debris just enough for Marcus to escape. "Move!" someone shouted. The entire hallway shook violently. Fire exploded through the ceiling behind them. The firefighters ran through smoke and falling debris while alarms screamed around them. And just seconds after they escaped the building, the entire third floor collapsed. The street fell silent. Everyone stared at the destruction in shock. Daniel dropped to his knees outside the building, pulling off his oxygen mask while coughing heavily. Rain mixed with ash across his face. Ambulances surrounded the area. Civilians cried while hugging rescued family members. And nearby, the little boy Daniel carried from the fire suddenly ran toward him. Without saying a word, the child wrapped his arms tightly around Daniel's neck. Daniel froze, then slowly hugged him back. The boy whispered one sentence through tears. "You came back for me." Daniel closed his eyes, and for the first time in months, something inside him softened. Not because the fear disappeared, but because he remembered why he became a firefighter in the first place. Not for medals, not for praise, for people. The next morning, news about the rescue spread across the city. Videos showed firefighters running through flames while civilians escaped crying into the streets. People called Daniel a hero. But sitting quietly inside the hospital beside Marcus, Daniel shook his head. "I was scared the whole time," he admitted softly. Marcus smiled weakly from the hospital bed. "That's why you're a real hero." Daniel looked confused. Marcus continued.
People think bravery means feeling no fear, but bravery is choosing to act even when fear tells you to stop. Those words stayed with Daniel forever. Weeks later, life slowly returned to normal. The burns healed, the smoke faded, But something inside Daniel had changed. One evening, he returned home after work and found his daughter waiting beside the door. She hugged him tightly. "Dad? Yeah? Were you scared during the fire?" Daniel looked at her honestly this time. "Yes." She looked up at him quietly.
"But you still went inside?" Daniel smiled softly. "Because courage doesn't mean you stop being afraid." He knelt beside her. "It means you decide someone else matters more than your fear." His daughter hugged him again, and in that simple moment, Daniel realized something important. The strongest people are not the ones who never break. They are the ones who keep going, even when life feels heavy. Firefighters are not fearless. Teachers are not fearless. Parents are not fearless. None of us are. Every person carries battles nobody else can see. Fear, pressure, pain, doubt. But real strength appears when people continue moving forward despite those things. That is courage, not perfection, not power. Choice. The choice to help. The choice to stand up again. The choice to walk into difficult moments when others run away.
Months later, Daniel stood outside the fire station, watching the sunset after another long shift. Young firefighters laughed nearby while preparing equipment. The city moved peacefully around him. And for the first time in years, Daniel allowed himself to breathe deeply. Not every fire could be stopped. Not every life could be saved. But every act of courage mattered, even small ones. Because sometimes the people who change the world are simply the ones willing to walk into the fire for someone else. And maybe that is what being brave truly means. Not being fearless, but refusing to let fear decide who you become.
So, if you're struggling right now, if life feels heavy, if fear keeps telling you to give up, remember this story. Real courage lives inside ordinary people who choose not to quit. Even one brave step forward can save a life. Sometimes, even your own. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, the strongest flames are not always the ones inside burning buildings. Sometimes, they are the battles people fight quietly inside themselves every single day.